Born in Idaho in 1913, Lois Beebe Hayna grew up in the small village of Vesper, Wisconsin, where her education began in a one-room schoolhouse. Her mother disapproved of novels, so Lois read and wrote poetry.
I'd always wanted to write from the time I was about 6, and I did, but pretty terrible stuff. As you know, a 6- and 7-year-old is not going to write anything deathless. But I was writing from the time I was 6.
Lois excelled in her schooling, and even though it was during the Great Depression, she won a $500 scholarship to the University of Wisconsin.
It was given to me because they wanted me to go to the School of Home Economics. And that was not exactly why I wanted to go. And once I got to the university, I almost went home because they had me signed up for sewing and cooking and whatnot until one professor intervened and said, "You don't have to take those courses." And he asked me what I did want, and he rewrote my schedule, and I stayed.
Lois was selected to live at Arden House, the campus literary center, where she was mentored by Sai Hayakawa, who would go on to become both a famous senator from California and a lifelong friend. After 4 years of study, Lois continued to think poetically, but live in the new reality of marriage, and with that, a move to her husband's home in Mississippi.
So I got introduced to the Deep South in the just before World War II. Gone with the Wind had not been made into a movie yet, but we had read the book. So I went expecting Tara, and I found Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Lois briefly taught school before bearing 3 children and later moving with her young family to Colorado. When her husband left her, Lois became both a single mom and a map monitor.
I looked for jobs right away, and one of the interesting ones was as a librarian of maps. I had not known there were so many kinds of maps, but maps are delightful things, and it was great fun.
Lois continued to work, raise her children, and eventually help raise her grandchildren as well.
If I didn't have all the time and the years with her, I wouldn't know half the stuff I know. Because my mom didn't have time, she had to do the work.
Busy with the work of life, Lois didn't begin her actual writing career until she was 62 years old.
And I raised the children, I got married again, and then my husband said, "Didn't you write at one time?" And I said, "Yeah, I did once." And so I thought, well, maybe I could again. And I wrote a poem and sent it to a contest, and it won first place. And I thought, oh, I guess I can. So I wrote some more, and they got picked up, and so I was launched. I was a writer.
Her recognition grew as her work appeared in literary reviews. Lois had just turned 70 when her first book of poetry was published by a friend from Foothills Arts Center in Golden, where Lois was teaching poetry. Shortly thereafter, Lois was asked to join the Colorado Authors League, and over the years won several awards for her poetry.
So she got in touch with me, and this doesn't happen often, I learned, but Nancy said, "Lois, get some of your poems together. I want to publish."
Lois began her many writing groups, the Hayna Writers, while she was teaching at Foothills, continuing with them in the 30 years after she moved to Colorado Springs, where she became active in Poetry West.
Writers in every one of the classes who would say, "I want to go on. I don't want to just take this course and stop." And so finally, one class that had been really working very well said, "You know, we're not going to take the class anymore, but we are going to keep meeting and working at what you've taught us." And I said, "Oh, in that case, can I come as a student? And when I was teaching, I had never brought any of my own work to the class. I had worked on theirs, and they said, yeah, you can come. And we became the writers. And part of that group is still meeting.
She's always looking for that unique perspective. And I think her perspective on life really shaped mine and everybody in the group.
The honors for Lois continue to accumulate, including publishing more poetry books, a total of 7, as well as receiving an honorary doctorate from Regis in 2009. The next year, Regis named the Lois B.B. Hayna Creative Writing Center after her, while Colorado Springs honored her as a Poet Laureate Emerita.
With a little success, you hurry up and write a lot more, so I kept writing and sending things out, and it's very hard to get published, especially books, but I was lucky. I got several, and I really don't know how Regis got interested later in my work, but they were so generous, and they have set up this wonderful room that everything I ever wrote can just go there and be looked after and preserved. I don't have to worry about the things that were published or unpublished. They have it all.
Now 101 years young, her poetry is revered.
She reaches, she's up there like with Robert Frost with little animals and the drumlin woodchuck and the little ant in the poem that's named Jerry McCormick, you know. But I mean, she gives life and real life and vibrancy to her subjects.
As her eyesight has gotten, more challenged, she has other kinds of senses that get more highly developed, which is amazing. It's really amazing. She gets better and better. I mean, I think, and she teaches me something about aging because she gets better and better. I think we have, as a culture, the idea that as we age, we're going to decline, and that's not the case with Lois. I think that her sensibility as a poet has grown as she's aged.
The amazing poet Lois B.B. Hayna.
Last Will and Testament. I am busy deciding which of my worldly goods should go to what of my inheritors, when an angel taps me on the shoulder and says, time to go. Almost at once I feel unsteady, as if I think wings upset my equilibrium, and they fledge astonishingly fast. Just before takeoff, I tucked my laptop under the lengthening feathers of the left wing. Heaven's golden vistas may turn over centuries a little boring. I might even settle in and finish that novel. Under my right wing, a few CDs. Harp music's okay, to a point, but it does tend to be, well, tinkly, and played by a group of eager but amateur harp players might turn a little hellish. I grabbed some Mahler and some Beethoven, then turn to my somewhat impatient angel and say, ready, and we're off. We don't look back.